Chapter 12. Travis sat at the card table in his bedroom and circled words. Grandpa had banged out the door for his AA meeting at 6:30, so the house was quiet and the TV off. Travis wanted to have the whole first chapter circled by the time he met with McQueen on Wednesday. He worked at it until his eyes blurred and he accidentally circled words he knew. Finally, he closed the book, flopped on the couch, and clicked the remote. The truck pulled into the drive. Footsteps tromped on the porch and the front door opened. "Look what I got," Grandpa said. "It's to celebrate my 30 days. Travis twisted to see Grandpa held up a chunk of sheet cake with white frosting and blue writing. Travis turned back to the TV. He was sick of sweets. Grandpa brought day-olds home from the bakery every day. How much of that stuff could a person eat? "I thought that was last week," he said. He glanced up and ran into the squinty eyeball stare. "What?" Grandpa set the cake on the coffee table and grabbed the remote and turned off the TV. "Hey, I was watching that." "Yeah, that Viagra ad is just full of information you need. Listen, boy, I think you need to start talking. In AA, they say if you don't talk about what's chewing on you, it'll eat your guts out." "I'm not in AA." "Keep this up and you might be. If your dad would have..." "Would have what?" Travis sat up. Grandpa stared at the smoke coming off the end of his cigarette. "Said something. Maybe he'd be here now, and you could hate him instead of me." "Said something about what?" "Travis, he was drunk when he drove into that tree." "Duh. Even a stupid Bluefish had that one figured out a long time ago." "I'm just saying maybe if you talked up, you won't have to be like him or me." "Nobody likes a chatterbox, remember?" Travis fired the words hard. Grandpa looked down and ran a hand over his mouth. Loose skin sagged around his Adam's apple. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, not the crusty, cheery, "now that I'm sober" voice. "Well, I said that a time or two, huh? Try a million." "Okay, so you're right." Grandpa stubbed out his cigarette. "I'm a shitty bad parent. Was then, am now. Does that help?" He got up slowly, as if it hurt, and took the cake back to the kitchen. He washed the dishes, opened and closed drawers. Every sound scraped on Travis's nerves. He turned the TV back on. "Does that help?" Kept circling around his head. No, it didn't help. The only thing that would help was Roscoe. He'd put his warm, heavy head on Travis's lap and slobber on his leg, and Travis could bury his nose in his silky ears. Grandpa took the trash out and was gone a while. When he came back, he closed the door gently behind him. "You know what we could use?" he said. "A bonfire out in the swamp. Remember how we used to do that when you were a little guy?" "There's no swamp here." Travis meant to spit the word sharp, but his voice shook. Grandpa came back over and looked behind the recliner. He creaked down onto his hands and knees and peered under the couch. He put his hands on the coffee table and pushed himself back up, falling onto the couch beside Travis. "Nope, you're right. I've looked everywhere. No swamp." "What are we going to do about that?" "That's what I'd like to know." Travis got up quickly. As he closed his bedroom door behind him, he barely heard Grandpa's voice. "Me too, buddy boy," he said. "Me too." The next morning in social studies, Miss Gordon called on Velveeta first. She taped a big red P and a big blue N on the board and performed a conversation between the Paleolithic guy and the Neolithic guy, standing first under the P and then under the N. She compared and contrasted. She rattled off facts about the people from each period, and she had everyone rolling in the aisles. No possible way Travis could have been a part of that. He would have ruined it, even if he could have learned the lines. Velveeta nodded to a standing ovation. She bowed in every direction and waved the end of her blue on light blue scarf. The rest of the presentations were worse than the ones the day before. Travis would have fallen asleep if Velveeta hadn't kept popping bits of commentary in his ear. When the bell finally rang, they walked out together. "See, Travail," she said, "you could have been part of Team Velveeta and shared the glory. You wouldn't even have had to say a word. I would have made you a sign to hold up. You would have been adorable, especially if you would have costumed up in caveman fur." Chad Cormack jostled hard on the other side of Travis, knocking his books to the floor. So, Roberts, is this why you're not hooping? Too busy getting some Velveeta on the side? The bump in the words lit Travis up before he could douse the flame. He shoved Cormac hard against the lockers. Whoa, whoa, easy, said Chad, holding up both hands. Sorry, dude, back down. Just a joke. Travis dropped his hands and stepped back, breathing hard, reeling it in, clamping down. Motion in the hallway stopped, and a circle of staring eyes surrounded him. Travis stepped backward out of the center. Joke, man, it's just a joke. Cormac waved his hand back and forth, erasing the whole thing. Sorry, said Travis. He bent down to pick up the books he dropped, eyes locked to the floor. In 4th grade on the bus, he turned on Clay rosin like that when Clay fished him and put gum in his hair. 1 minute Travis was sitting there ignoring it all, and the next Clay was holding his nose and crying while blood puddled on the floor of the bus, and a whole ring of kids stared at Travis. Velveeta's dirty black and white checkered sneakers appeared next to his pencil. Travis reached for it and tucked it into the spiral of his notebook. When he finally stood up, everyone but Velveeta was gone. That was very Fight Clubby of you, she said, beating little Chatty up right here in the school hallway. I didn't beat him up. It was so manly, defending my honor and all. If I give you a list, will you beat up everyone on it? She grinned. Big joke. She didn't know about the puddle of blood, or Joy Nizmansky's concussion, or Grandpa in the gravel. No. The bell rang for second period. Ooh, late for class. What other excitement can happen today? Velveeta backed away. See you at lunch. Travis walked the empty hall to science, still thinking about that 4th grade day on the bus. Clay's big brother Marshall had grabbed Travis by the collar to pull him off, and Travis tore into Marsh so hard that he let go with a shove. This kid's gone crazy back here, he'd yelled to the bus driver. After that day, kids still fish hissed at him, but mostly they did it from a distance. When Travis walked into science, he felt eyes on him as he took his seat on the far side of the classroom. He wished Velveeta's eyes were there. Somehow, she saw him differently than everyone else. Velveeta on a stupid Tuesday. The Madre made real food again, and this time the butt showed and brought fancy beer from the brewery, and they drank their dinner while I ate mine. All he has to do is show up with a bottle, and her whole, I'm going to get my head straight and do things right, is gone out the window. Ha ha, have a beer, Velveeta. No, thank you, Mother. But gee, thanks for including me, because I can't wait to grow up and be just like my big brother. I can't understand how Jimmy can be so ugly. He seriously has the ugliest face in the world, and when I look in the mirror and try to see how him and me are related, I can see it just around the edges of my ugliness. Calvin, nobody but you understands exactly how much I hate him to hellfire. I wish he'd explode into ashes and never poke his butt face into my life again. What if Travis really could beat him up? I can see that fight scene on the big screen. Travis would step out from the alley next to the bar and say, "Hey, aren't you Jimmy the Butt?" Then kablow, kablam, slam in the street. Oh my God, can you just see it? Beautiful. But that would mean mixing Travis with Trailer World. No, that could never happen. Never, never. Every time I put on a scarf and walk to the end of Pauley Road, I turn into Velveeta, and she might not be much, but she's better than Vita Wajahowski. And you know what? You brought this Velveeta version to life. Without you, I'd have a flask of bourbon in my school locker, and I'd be selling drugs and jacking cars and mugging old ladies, little old ladies, and other things I don't even want to think about. What would I do if I didn't have this place? Right now, I would be wandering around outside in the dark. Instead, I'm tucked away safe here in your electricity working trailer with the double bolted door, wrapped up in scarves and watching Labyrinth. Maybe I can move in here. Do you think the Madre would even notice?